Well, I've started working on the front pan and tilt. This is the plate for the front of the Mini Talon. It's not as big as the Skyhunter, but it does have parts for mounting the servo. So I'm just going to let it be like it is. I wish I was good enough with Mesh Lab or something like that to expand this out without changing this part, but I'm not, and I can't stop and do that. So I think that's going to work pretty good, and it looks like I am going to be able to see over the side. So we're moving along. And my biggest problem here is I just didn't like the way this printed out the last time. Probably going to be hard to see. Just really rough. This part's not as bad. I have to clean up this hole. That's where the top part, actually I think it's the other hole on the other side. That's where the top part fits in, and then the servo comes out this side for the tilt part. That part printed well because I think this is where I put it down on the build plate. But you can sort of see in the sides, look at all this junk. And I had that printer tuned well at one point. Look at all of it in there. That's just not good. And I think I know what it is. I'm not sure, but I think I know. Let me show you a little bit about the basement here. There's no vapor barrier underneath this concrete. I think the water table's fairly high here. We're on the side of a hill. And you can see, if I raise this up, it's wet. Anything you put on this basement, period, develops moisture underneath it. For example, look at this. This is just a trash can that's been sitting here for a while. Look, there's a wet spot underneath it. Doesn't matter what you sit on this floor. Cardboard box or just that plastic basket. And one of the ways the landlord is combating this, and just had to take another look at that as I walked by, is combating this is with this giant industrial dehumidifier. It normally runs constantly. I have to turn it off for my videos. But it's huge, and it pumps the water outside. This will pump 20 gallons of water a day out of this basement. And I think what's happening here, and I'm right next to the furnace now, so lots of extra noise, is I leave this filament on all the time and just probably should be taking it off and putting it in my box with a decandescent, whatever how you pronounce that. The moisture removing crystals. I'm using a glass bed. I've got a nice level bed, but I think this might be soaking up moisture, and I should be taking it off each time and putting it in my container down here where the rest of my filaments are, and it's got those crystals, decandescent, whatever it's called. So I think that's what's making my prints bad, because this printer was well tuned and doing great prints even for the Mini Talon recently. So I am going to try to clean these parts up. Just major problems right here on this pivot point, and then I've got to drill a hole right in here to get my camera wires through. A servo mounts right in between these two blocks and screws to those two blocks so that you have a tilt function. Top plate is for the Runcam 2 4K, and the center section here is for a little board camera. So I think I'm going to use it. I just have to clean it up and make sure it works. And that should get me pretty close. I don't have a camera for the top part yet, but that should get me pretty close to finishing the Skyhunter build. Well, the pivot point right here cleaned up real easily with some sandpaper, and now it fits well and doesn't have near the amount of resistance that it had before, and will be quite functional. I'm working right now on getting my hole cut into oh man, this corner up here, little square hole that I'll put in there for the camera leads to come through, and I start out with drilling a couple of holes with the servo in, so I don't get into the servo with the drill, but just where the servo is going to be here, and then this block's fairly thick, so I have to make that a little more square with a file, and that'll give me a little place up there for the holes to go through. This is going to work. I might like it if it was easier, but we all do what we can and what we're happy with, and I would like to have a different solution, but still working on that one. So let me see what I can do with that. Okay, I've kind of got a square hole in there. Might not be square to the parts, but that's how I'll get my cable through for the camera. Yep, it worked. Let me get my cables through. Got to take this out of this adapter, perhaps. I think that's for part of another pan and tilt. But there's that coming along. Well, there's what I ended up with. I still have to put the connector on the end of that cable, but other than that, and I also have to get a Runcam 2 4K for the top. But other than that, that's it. That's what we're going to go with. All right, guys. Thank you so much.